All right. So again, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to the Uganda DNS Forum. Now, we are going to be having two important sessions this afternoon. One session is by Chilufwa, and the other one is by Dr. Akimbo. And the session today that we are going to have first by Chilufwa is on universal acceptance. As you very well know, we have universal acceptance as one of the tracks in the DNS hackathon. And just a little bit about Chilufwa. She'll talk a little bit more about herself, but she's a universal acceptance ambassador, and she's an internet governance fellow, and she helps communities and developers adopt UA. And so right now, allow me to invite Shilufwa to give an introduction of herself and then also to lead us through the next session. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Cliff. Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. Unfortunately, you have said it all, but I'll reintroduce myself with some things that were missing. I hope I'm audible enough. If I'm not audible, I believe you can share in the chat. So my full name is actually Teresa Mlenga. I currently reside in Lusaka, Zambia, where I work professionally as a cybersecurity specialist, specialized in financial institutions and banks, as well as critical infrastructures. Besides that, my other personal roles are the current Vice President of the Internet Society Zambia chapter. I believe we might be familiar with what the Internet Society and Foundation is doing to connect the unconnected. Besides that, I am also the founder and CEO of Women in Data Science and AI Zambia, where we advocate for all things data science and AI and other tech-related areas. I am a gender equity and equality advocate, but as well as Cliff has mentioned, I also proudly and largely advocate for diverse internet systems as well as connecting everyone to the internet. And that's where my role as the Universal Acceptance Ambassador here comes in, to ensure that no one is left behind and that the internet is inclusive and diverse for all, regardless of language and other related factors. So I'll proceed to share my screen with some things more I have prepared for today. My role with you today here will just to create awareness and also highlight the importance and role that you might be playing coming from different diverse backgrounds. I do believe some may be coming from an educational background, an academia background, a technical background. I'll also highlight what role you might be playing in advocating for universal acceptance, more especially in marginalized community. So without wasting much of your time, as I'm sharing my screen, Cliff, I'm not sure if this is this an open type of discussion where I can ask queries and they can also ask me questions. I think I do believe at the end of the presentation, it will be an open for all, but while I'm presenting and before I'm presenting as well, if I pose a question, you know the answer. Is it okay if they mute themselves and share the answers? Hello, Cliff. Is this an interactive type of session? Am I audible? Hello?
Sure, yeah, audible.
Yes, you're
Oh,
audible.
okay. All
Hello.
right.
You said you're going to share your screen. Are you able to have access from your side at the moment?
Yes. I think so, but
Yeah, because
unfortunately, I can't share the window. I can only share the entire screen.
oh, okay. All right. In case you need some assistance, please let me know. But from my side, you can share the screen.
All right, I was hoping I could just share an entire window, but unfortunately, it's like I have to share the whole screen. But okay. So as we start, as I'm trying to share my screen, has anyone heard of universal acceptance before today? UA or any of the domains related to UA, IDN, TOD in any capacity. I do believe that Uganda does host some of Universal Acceptance Day, and also in relation to Internet Society. I think that has come up on of course, except from Dr. Akimbo, please. The other participants, have you heard of universal acceptance in any capacity, or what do you think universal acceptance is? What do you believe it is? I think you can share your answers in the chat, or you can quickly unmute yourself as I'm trying to share my screen so that we can start the conversation from there. I do believe that anyone who's here right now in this platform, I think you have knowledge or an idea of what universal acceptance might be. And also from my introduction, I think you're able to pick it up from there. Anyone else, any idea that you might have of universal acceptance? All right. In any capacity, how you might understand it. Okay. So mainly universal acceptance is one of the core principles in the DNS system and also the internet is evolution. Like I mentioned, its main role is to ensure that all valid domain names and email addresses are internationally accepted by internet applications and also devices, which means that systems, platforms that are created or services that are created in relation to internet applications that rely on domain names and email addresses must be able to accept, validate, store, process, as well as display all domain names and email addresses, regardless, most importantly, regardless of the language, as I mentioned, language, and other internet related challenges that might be there. So, okay, let's see how we're going to do this. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I was sharing my screen. Was anyone able to see my screen?
Yeah, I know it has disappeared.
Oh, okay. I was trying to confirm. Okay, I am sharing my entire screen, so I won't be able to see the participants. But if there are any queries, please you can cut me short.
Yeah. Chifu, sir, we can see your screen, but we can't hear your voice. You're muted.
All right, so it's like the challenge is once I share my screen, you cannot hear me because I'm sharing my entire screen. Let me try that once more. All right, it's like you cannot hear me when I'm sharing my entire screen. I'm using.
Or maybe you can share the document with me, and then I
Oh
can.
yeah. Let me share the document with you, and then you can help me share. But while we're dealing with the documentation, I think I'll just proceed with the conversation. Okay. I have shared the presentation, Cliff. Boniface, do you want to say something? Okay, so to proceed, while we're waiting for Cliff to share his screen, like I was mentioning, that the practice of universal acceptance is to ensure that a domain name is not rejected because it's written in a different language apart from English, which is one of the universally mostly used languages currently, especially in our internet systems that we use. Ensure that a domain name is not rejected because it's new or it's longer, and also that the internet application or software does not assume that the top level domain names only have three or two letters, and also ensuring that systems properly handle domain names and email addresses in diverse scripts as well, and that everyone around the world can use the internet in their own language without barriers. I think this advocacy and awareness comes from the large gap that Africa currently still faces in terms of the digital divide. Of course, we live in a multilingual world, and right now, the internet contributes significantly to the progress of that world in health, in finance, in education. But one thing that has been made apparent and very clear is that there are people that are usually left behind because of the language barrier, not because they do not know, but because of the language challenges that they face. If we bring about the internet and how someone can actually use it. So for Cliff, for this presentation, I have certain slides that I'm going to skip just to keep time and to keep everyone agile, but you can keep the second slide as well when we live in a lingual world. I would just like to add on to what I was mentioning when it comes to language. I think from that from that diagram, if it's very clear enough for everyone, you can see how English is mapped at 52% as one of the largest languages used in internet systems as well as software. And when it comes to languages that are actually spoken and have the highest speakers, you find Chinese comes first, as well as Spanish coming second, and English coming third. But meanwhile, English is one of the languages that dominates when it comes to internet systems. When you want to apply when you want to apply for an account on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on TikTok, most of these applications, regardless where you're coming from or regardless of a system that you are using right now, you will go to Samsung, you buy a phone, you buy a laptop, an Apple laptop, a Microsoft Windows laptop, you buy that. The first language that pops up is the English language. If you do not know that English language, you are disadvantaged, not because you cannot use the tool, but because of the language that the tool has been made in, that disadvantages you. Cliff, let's go to slide 14, where we dive into universal acceptance. And I do believe this language barrier is one that has created, I think, a gap when it comes to local as well as international help coming from international funders. Mainly, like I said, universal acceptance ensures that all valid systems as well as devices, software applications are accepted in language of your choice. This come about while DNS has actually evolved and oh, Nicholas, do you have something to say?
Sorry, I forgot to mute.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. While DNS has actually evolved, many of the software systems or applications that we see out there have outdated resources that are able to validate domain names and actually email addresses. And this is one of the challenges that we are currently facing, despite the internet being massively used because of the slow development in the domain names and email addresses area. You find that most of the people are very, very disadvantaged, especially people who do not use English as their first language. To add on, most of the online portals are usually primed for opening a user account related to a certain email address. I do believe most of us have created an email address, have created accounts on certain application using our email address, and I think that's something that they usually pick on. If you go into the bank, you want to create an account, they will use your email address. If I want to download an application, I'm using Play Store, my email address will be used, will be related to that account. I think basically everything, almost everything that we're using right now related to the internet, related to an application, related to a user account is actually attached to an email address. But if I'm disadvantaged in a sense that if my email address has a certain letter or a certain typo, if my name in an email address is written in a certain way that the current internet system cannot accept right now, I'm disadvantaged. I cannot use my email address in the way that I'm supposed to use it, or in the way that I'm supposed to write, in a way that advantages me. I think this comes also, this highlights, I think, language, especially in the African setup, that needs to be altered to be accepted by the internet system. I'll give a practical example, especially in my country, Zambia. We write certain names in a traditional way that have, accents, or that have gaps, or that are attached to the other name in a certain way. But if I'm trying to create a Gmail account and my name has a certain accent or space somewhere, Gmail will automatically not accept. Of course, right now, with more advocacy, things are changing. You find that okay, eventually it's going to accept, or other platforms will accept. But I think way back it was a very, very big challenge, and this has caused many, many people to actually alter their names or their surnames in a certain way so that they can be able to create an email address to access other platforms. This is something that we are highlighting right now because it's not just, changing your name. You are actually changing, because if you change your name in that email address at one point, meaning that's something that you're going to use for the rest of your life. Because most of our, Gmail addresses and email addresses are not easily, deleted. It is something that you continue to use. It's something that is attached to cloud system. It's something that is attached to applications, and then if you add in IoT systems, that are attached probably maybe to your temperature or anything. It's something that people can actually use, to get more data about you. Hence, why we are actually addressing universal acceptance right now. Hence the advocacy of having the freedom to write something and the system is able to actually accept and validate it as something that is accurate, because it is indeed accurate. But systems that are created and that have been programmed in one language may not accept it as accurate. So, considered a technical compliance best practice, UA resolves these issues by ensuring that all valid domain names and email addresses, regardless of language, character length, can be equally used by all internet-enabled applications, as well as system. Achieving UA acceptance ensures that every person has got the ability to navigate and communicate on the internet using their chosen domain name and email addresses, which best aligns with their interest, business culture, and also language script. We can move to the next slide, please. While we're moving to the next slide, I've observed Google, if you have observed it with me, that they have Google Workspace now, where you are able to add your business or maybe your hobby, something that's relating to your interest, to to have it like a formal name. I do believe that it didn't have way back, or maybe I might have missed it, but I do know that we didn't have a Google Workspace that was giving someone an advantage to do that. And I'm seeing a lot of people right now are using Google Workspace now to create their account email addresses, their organizations, their initiatives. Normally, way back, people would create a foundation or business using like at gmail.com, which is not really appropriate, because you find that even as you're applying for something or in any other spaces, it's not really going to readily accept at gmail.com, because it's because of other technical factors. But it's going to request maybe like a school email address, a work email address, or other institution email address to just make it formal. Because obviously, when you say at Gmail, your name at Gmail, mostly they are considered as personal accounts. But now, right now, I think because of the advocacy, I do know that because of the advocacy, I think Google has considered that it's very important that people are given the right to create their formal email addresses using Google. It has also advanced, some of the features like Zoom has. I hope anyone in here, if you've had the chance to use a Google Workspace, I'm still trying to navigate it. If you've had it, maybe you can share in the chat how you're finding it, how you're finding your formal address, how is it working? Is it an added advantage to either your personal interest or your personal goals? So to move on, The main goal and impact of universal acceptance, I think I mentioned it in my conversation, is to allow all valid domain names and email addresses to work in all software application. And the main impact that these has in our internet world right now, of course, is to promote consumer choice, to improve competition, and to provide broader access to end users. But this is just many of the few that can be listed. The list is endless in education, in health-wise, and most importantly, we are doing this to advantage marginalized and isolated communities. If you have heard of the work that Internet Society is doing when it comes to connecting the unconnected, using community networks, this is where UA now comes in. Most of these places or areas are usually isolated, from many towns, and we don't want these places to be disadvantaged like that. But if someone is able to access the internet using their own language, using their own script, using their own tools, using their own systems, it's creating a broader world. It's creating a diverse world where people are not disadvantaged. Because if you go on YouTube, the only language they're going to speak is just English. Regardless of the advocacy that we have right now in education, believe you me, there are certain places that haven't been exposed to the English language as many of us have been exposed. I do believe that there are many places when you go there, they are learning, they are being educated in their local languages. And I think that's still good in the African setup. But we would want that to be related, to be attached to the internet. I think we can move on to the next slide, please. So why does universal acceptance matter to you and me? Like I mentioned, universal acceptance helps us in a lot of ways, to support mainly a diverse, multicultural, multilingual internet, but also many allowing trust and freedom of expression, on the internet. Me being able to write and someone being able to understand, me being able to write and the system being able to understand what I'm writing. And now that we even have ChatGPT directly translating, I do hope that in the near future, as systems are being created, as ChatGPT is able to translate. I'm not sure right now if ChatGPT, if anyone has experimented or tried, if it's able to translate if it's able to translate, maybe if I'm typing in Spanish and then I tell you to translate, if it's directly able to translate that, I think I'm going to give you a small homework. You try that in your local language. I don't know what language Ugandans speak mostly, but then try to experiment on that. If you're able to type something in your local language or even a passage or even a phrase, if it's able to directly translate that, I think this, relates to being able to actually express yourself. Of course, I'm giving an example of ChatGPT because right now we do have systems like bot systems on our platforms. So, for example, if you're using WhatsApp or you're using Facebook, there's always like a bot down there, like an AI bot that is there by the corner, offering itself that I'm open if you need any help in any way. And it's quickly has brought up, if I want to use the internet or an internet system, I'm typing in my local language, is it able to directly translate in that that regard to give me an opportunity to express myself in a way that I would like to express myself. So one thing that universal acceptance also helps with is, greater competition, innovation when it comes to people expressing themselves in their local language as well, and in their languages that they are comfortable with. And also it creates social and business opportunities. All the things that I've mentioned before in my explanation offers career advantages for developers and system administrators. When it comes to government and policymakers and regulators, they are fully well and more than capable to actually express themselves to their citizens. Next slide, please, Keith. So when we look at universal acceptance, it's not something that should be taken lightly. It's something that is digging deep to allow, various people not to be disadvantaged. We would want everyone to have an opportunity and not to be left behind. We want everyone to have an opportunity to share their grievances, to actually contribute to the innovative and also economical progress of African countries, and also, the continent at large, because we don't want someone to be disadvantaged because of the system that they're trying to access that opportunity on, or because of the barriers that that system is actually offering. Like I mentioned, when we are using these internet application, internet software, internet devices, we need to make sure that these systems are accepting all valid domain names and email addresses. That firstly, they are able to accept them, their user inputs, their characters in the local languages, their scripts, the length into the text field. Secondly, that the software that we are actually using accept these characters and recognize them. I'm going to repeat, recognize them as valid characters that we're using. That these characters are actually processed, and that the system is able to correctly perform the operations of the characters that are inputted. The database that these systems are stored into, that these characters are stored into, that is able to store them without breaking them or corrupting them and changing them in any way. Lastly, that when I type in the database that I want this and this, that this database is able to retrieve that information and is able to be displayed to me in a correct manner, in a manner that has not been altered, in a manner that has not changed in any way, because back there somewhere there the system was not able to recognize my language, but it has translated it in a different way. We would want all the systems to accept and also be able to give you correct information. Next slide, please. As we're moving on to the next slide, I'll give an example, I think, on universal acceptance. I do believe 2023, no, 2024. We gave an example of how Google actually, Google Chrome, yeah, like Google, when you Google Chrome, the search tab on Google Chrome, how it was searching our local language in Zambia. We do have 72, but then I think the mostly used ones are two, Bemba and Nyanja. So with the participants, there was an example where we put in a phrase, if it's not a word, to see how the system, Google as a system, as an application, is able to actually translate this word, and is able to actually give correct information. Believe you me, I think that's an experiment you can also do at your own time. We added in a word dog in my local language, imbwa. That's what we call it, dog, imbwa. And what Google was able to pick up, it couldn't really give a direct translation of the dog. Of course, this will come because of the database that are already available of our local language, but it was able to pick from videos that are posted on Facebook, on YouTube. It like searched the internet, surfing the internet for a term that was related to what we were searching for, instead of giving it the exact term of what we were searching for dog. We did use the same example to search for the word dog in English, and we were amazed by how it was able to break down on the things that we actually wanted. It defined the word dog, gave examples, gave different types of species. It was able to break down certain information that it wasn't able to break down in my local language. So this translates to what we are discussing here right now: having systems that are able to actually give you the information that you want based on your local language. And I think with that, in the near future, I think I should be able to type my word in my local language, and the system, how it's programmed, is able to translate that word I have searched for in my local language and able to give me the same information that it gave us in English. And that's why we're working towards universal acceptance readiness. Of course, the ICANN, if anyone, as head of the ICANN community, does anyone head of the ICANN or ICANN as an organization? Does it ring a bell to anyone? You can also type it in the chat what you believe ICANN does and or the full definition of the global organization. I do believe, I think this should really be at the tip of I'm not going to mention the full acronym, but then the ICANN community created the Universal Acceptance Steering Group. I do believe this has actually been dissolved after 10 years of great work. I think it's now the Universal Acceptance Expert Working Group. I do believe that more information is going to be shared as we are progressing into the expert group. But I can actively promote universal acceptance, and this is in relation to it be, advocating for internet for all. Of course, I can specialize in domain names and numbers, but then I think if you break down that, that's when we now come to internet for all. So it was able to help with this initiative financially as well as resource-wise. That's how I even came in to know about universal acceptance and actually advocate for it. So, but then to break it down, the steering group and I can work hand in hand to achieve UA readiness by, of course, organizing outreach, raising awareness, and also advocating for UA issues, conducting detailed study and research, and also identifying technical gaps with different working groups, determining solutions to address the technical gaps that might have been discovered or have been discovered, also submitting bug reports in relevant tools and systems. They also do this. I think I've done a website study of over 2,000 website studies that are universal acceptance ready, and those that are not actually encouraged to be universal acceptance ready. It goes an extra mile besides finance, but to offer guidance, support, mentorship to organizations, group, institutions that I think that might be willing to get on the universal acceptance wagon. But last but not least, also developing and conducting technical training, like we're doing right now, awareness. Of course, probably if I'm given an opportunity to go into a deeper session, we'll go into the technicalities and the programming of making websites or US systems universally acceptable already. We can move on to the next slide, please. So I did touch on what your role might be as people, as participants who are here right now, as participant of the DNS Forum 2025. What is your role? If you are coming from a business perspective, your business might be disadvantaged if you're not universally acceptable already. You might be leaving money on the table because you're not able to accept to update your systems to be more inclusive and more diverse so that people are given multiple options or more options to actually access your business services by being universally accepted already. So a study done by the Universal Acceptance Steering Group conducted in 2017 found that UA internet domain name is a 9.8 billion opportunity. I think that has increased as of now, which is a conservative estimate. Businesses that are UA ready will be best positioned to reach growing global audiences and maximize revenue potential from the current internet populations as well as the next billion. So what can you do in your role right now as a person coming from the business institution? What can you do? Of course, you can help by organizing internally and assess if your business system are compliant with UA standards. You can also update your own IT system to be UA ready. You can also encourage your collaborators to participate and promote local UA related discussion. Like what we're doing right now, you can also help by creating UA awareness with partner organizations locally as well internationally. We can go to the next slide, please. See if we can move on to the next slide, please. So, if you're coming from a business, if you're coming from the government perspective or government area, how can you assist to be UA ready? How can you be more UA compliant, especially when you're coming from a policymaker or regulator point of view? You can help by evaluating the possibility of including UA requirements in government procurement, which we don't usually see. I wouldn't even pinpoint that there's anything that I'm seeing in relation to that right now, but it is the work that I'm actually doing on the ground, trying to encourage more government institutions to be actually UA ready, and also push for other government people to include universal acceptance as a requirement. I'm also reaching out to government department. We do have ZICTA, I think our ICT regulator at the moment, and there has been some conversation of universal acceptance. We do hope that with the incoming of the universal acceptance expert group, I think I'm able to proceed with some of the conversations that I started already. But most importantly, we are coordinating and also doing outreach programs with, I think our local TLD managers, and also ICANN is still very, very much on board to progress with the universal acceptance mission that it had started. And these still falls under most of the advisory committee members, and also working group, despite some changes that are being made. Next slide, please. I think I've been talking a lot. Does anyone have a question, a clarification, as we wait for us to move to the next slide? I will have some questions at the end of this session, just to see if someone has gotten a little from what I've said. And I do believe, I think after the sessions, the presentation will be shared with you, something that you can actually go through. Cliff, we can move to slide 21, please. Okay, so if you're coming from civil society, your main role will be to encourage your community to attend any local and regional UA related events, and to help coordinate and also raise more awareness that could help to promote them. So civil society, of course, you can make your own UA ready systems for broader digital inclusion. It has to start from somewhere. I always encourage people that I'm meeting, people that I'm talking to, that it shouldn't really be something related to the internet system directly. It starts from somewhere. It's starting from you creating inclusive communication paths in your local organization, in your local community, in your local advocacy work. It starts from the message that you're trying to share with people. We want directly program systems to be speaking Swahili or any other African language there and then. I think it starts from a system that you want to create, like an example of how you would want it to be, and you build from there. And also, civil society can help to promote research on inclusive and access that it reinforces the principle of universal acceptance, as well as continuing with the advocacy. We can move to the next slide. So when it comes to now academia is now working on the ground to actually upgrade email systems that need to support valid domain names and email addresses, and also to update IT curricula. I do believe that we have a curriculum that has been I think that was created, not that has been. I think that was created. This is a conversation that we were having since last year to this year. In terms of universal acceptance, very, I think very powerful curriculum that was created in relation to UA. Hopefully, I'm yet to hear more on how that, if it's still at people's, if it can still be accessed. I think it can still be shared to universities as well as colleges, and can be used as a basis to increase universal acceptance, but also to train faculty and students to adopt UA practices in software development, but as well as not forgetting creating more awareness. I think this curriculum is actually broken down very well in teaching people step by step, helping in creating and validating systems that can be universally acceptable already. We can move to slide 24 and 25 as I conclude. So for domain name registries and registrars, locally in my country, I don't know about Uganda, you can be able to share that in the chat if you do have local domain registries and registrars, but I do know, wait, what do we call this? Apnic, if I'm not mispronouncing it. Yes, if I'm not mispronouncing it, but they deal with domain names, in the African domain names and registrars. In country, we do have our regulator, our ICT regulator, they deal with domain name and registrars. If you're part of that institution, you can assess universal acceptance related gaps in customer facing systems. You can also help upgrade these systems to support universal acceptance ready, but most importantly, creating awareness. I think in 2020, in 2024, we had our universal acceptance day at our registrar offices. They are very open, they are very willing, and they are always offering a listening ear to us when it comes to universal acceptance. I think we should be able to take advantage of those institutions and help them in any way that they can. We can move to slide 25. I think last but not the least, your role as your domain holder and registrant is to check with your internet service provider hosting your website and email to see if there are services are you already. I can vouch for Gmail. I know, I know that they have been working for it on it for a while. I'm not, and I think Microsoft as well. The other email provider that I know had some challenges is Yahoo. You can actually experiment on that yourself. Also, you can check with your website and email admin if your website and email is UA ready. If it's not, consider taking the initiative to update it and make it UA ready. And also check, create UA awareness with your ISP, web developers, email admin, and ask them to update their systems to be UA ready. I think when it comes to ISP, it's something that I haven't really, those are the people that I haven't really had a conversation with. And I'm also taking it up as an initiative to talk to ISPs as well to actually increase my advocacy areas. So last but not the least, to conclude, we can move to slide 44 as we are concluding. I'm going to encourage anyone who has any queries, anyone who has any clarification, if there's any contribution that you would like to make towards this. This is this is food for thought. I know that more will be coming your way, but this is something that has been laid out as a beginning. You can use this is opportunity at the DNS forum to actually research more and see how you can contribute to towards universal acceptance, and how you can actually include your communities to not be left behind when it comes to universal acceptance. So how do you get involved? That's the email address, and also the website where you can follow UA updated events as well as information, and where you can also access all the UA documents and materials. And also just you can follow Universal Acceptance on LinkedIn. They are always sharing information. They are LinkedIn as well as Facebook as well as Twitter. I'm more prominent with them on LinkedIn. And just be very vigilant when it comes to our UA related activities. I know that most of them for this year have passed, but I do know that next year we'll have more and very eventful and more impactful universal acceptance events. You can participate. Most of them are hybrid events. They are physically as well as remotely. And I know that Cliff will use this as an advantage to share more about most of these events and how you can actually access them. So if there's nothing on my end, if there's nothing on your end, there's nothing that you would want to share with me, thank you so much for having me and so much for the great audience. Cliff, I leave. I over to you.
All right. Thank you so much, Rufwa. It's really indeed a great honor to have you here. And also the fact that you've graced this DNS Hackathon knowledge. And it's also great to learn from you. Um, I have 5 minutes about this, but there is a lot that I've learned from you during this session, and I do hope that the rest of the participants have also managed to gain some very insightful information that they can use for the upcoming hackathon, which is officially going to start tomorrow afternoon. And are there any questions from the audience before we move on to the next speaker? Any questions? Evans, you say lovely presentation. All right, I will share the presentation with you as soon as we are done with this call. And before we go on to the next speaker, allow me to pause the recording and then record again as we want to have bit-sized presentations that we can upload on our YouTube channel, of which those who have missed can be able to catch up on. So as we get ready for the next speaker, let's take just a 1 minute break, and then we can start officially with the next speaker.